Something that can be common in the weight loss, weight regain cycle is binging. But what is binging? Well, the first thing to know is that binge eating is actually biologically normal. It's when we use food to increase feel-good hormones in our bodies. Binges are usually a response to stress, anxiety, past or current trauma. They can be an attempt to bring ourselves back to homeostasis. It might start out innocent and enjoyable, but it often comes with feelings of regret, shame, and loss of control. If you find yourself binging, you might also find yourself hiding what you're doing, especially because it comes with a very shameful stigma. Once the binge ends, you might feel very uncomfortable, almost sick to your stomach, after you eat a portion that might be deemed larger than what a normal person would eat in a sitting. Binges are almost always accompanied with restriction. This is the opposing response to the binge. It's compensating for eating what we quote unquote shouldn't have. It usually comes with rules, strict portion sizes, and feelings of trying to be good. People often get caught in a binge restrict cycle that leaves them feeling completely hopeless and unsure how to ever break out of it. If you have a true diagnosis of binge eating disorder, I recommend that you find a good therapist to work with, because it's important to know that binge eating disorder is an actual eating disorder, just like anorexia or bulimia, and you will need actual treatment for it from a licensed psychotherapist. There are several things we can do, however, with our nutrition to help reduce the likelihood of binges and help reduce the stress overall. Let's start by talking about foods that can help lower your stress and hopefully help reduce the incidence of a binge. I'm not going to give you specific foods to eat, but we're going to talk about generalities. In general, foods that are touched by the fewest number of hands. As you may have heard us say in these videos, we're looking for foods that either grew in the ground or lived on the ground. You can also look for something that has the fewest number of ingredients. Another way to tell if a food is going to be healthful and stress reducing is to cook it yourself or pick something that you would have cooked. Another way to identify if a food is healthy or not is, will that food spoil with time? Choosing whole, unprocessed foods will help regulate your body, and it will help regulate your hunger. Try to consume at least 3 meals a day, either following our meal plan or following our guidelines for how often you should eat. You should be choosing to eat something every 3 to 5 hours, not going so long that you become very hungry, but not eating too soon that you don't give your body a chance to burn what it's already been digesting. This is the power of nutrition. We want to calm your body before we can calm your mind when it comes to binge eating. Your body needs to know that it is safe. Oftentimes you've restricted so much that your physical body feels unsafe and unsure of whether it's going to get all the nutrients it needs. Therefore, when you are given a large portion of food in front of you, or you are presented with a lot of processed foods or very tempting things, you often might feel like you lose control. Make sure you are feeding your emotional brain as well. Is your mind hungry or is your body hungry? If it's your mind that's hungry, we can feed your mind with something else. Most people find binge eating relief with meditation, prayer, walking in nature, taking deep breaths, and working with a therapist. And lastly, when it comes to nourishing your body, we're not just talking about nourishing your body with food. We're talking about nourishing your body with foods that are also emotionally satisfying. It's a delicate balance of choosing foods that are nourishing your body on a physical level, but are also nourishing your mind on a psychological level. The more you restrict yourself from eating foods that give you pleasure, the more likely you are to binge on those foods. And that's because you've attached a stigma of shame to go with it. But when we remove that shame, that food just becomes another food. The goal of breaking the binge restrict cycle is that you choose foods that make you feel healthy. They make your body feel light, they give you energy, they make you feel how you want to feel, but you also give yourself permission to eat sweet foods within reason, obviously with bariatric surgery, but also making sure you feed your emotional side, choosing foods that are simply fun to eat, deemed more treat foods. That way they don't feel shameful, they don't feel something that's forbidden, so when you do eat them, you don't find yourself losing control with them. Try to build treat foods into your week so you can become accustomed to them as part of your meal plan. In this video, we will be talking about cleaning your cupboards. So why remove tempting items from your house? Well, it's because the more you look at it, the less likely you can resist it. This is also known as willpower fatigue. It means the more times you have to make a choice, the more difficult that choice becomes every time. They've actually studied brain scans that show our brains become less and less able to make those choices the more times we are presented with them, hence being called decision fatigue. So let's try to make it easier on ourselves and reduce the amount of food decisions we have to make in a day. One of the reasons that we eat food we didn't intend is the famous phrase, "It was just there." Did you eat it because it was available in the cupboard or because you really wanted it? Would you be willing to leave your house, go to the store, and buy a single serving for yourself? Are you physically hungry or emotionally hungry? When these foods aren't in the house, it can reduce temptation and force yourself to ask those questions before you make the decision to eat something. So during this process, what is it helpful to remove from your house? The first thing I recommend is trying to remove as many artificial foods as possible. These are going to be processed and packaged foods. They may be foods that are sweetened with artificial man-made chemicals. They might be artificially colored, or something that seems kind of unnatural. Think Kool-Aid, Pop-Tarts, coffee creamer, or really brightly colored yogurt. The other thing I recommend removing are sources of sugar or sweets. You have had bariatric surgery, and sugar does not go very well with our digestive system after surgery. Try getting rid of anything sweetened with sugar, cookies, candies, sweets. And lastly, try to keep sweetened beverages out of the house. This might be things like juice, sweet teas, sodas, Kool-Aids, or energy drinks. The whole point of cleaning out your cupboards and making sure that you're not surrounded by tempting foods is to give yourself the advantage. Make this easier on yourself. We are hardwired to reach for sweet and processed foods. Don't torture yourself by walking by tempting foods all day in your home. Before we start this video series, there's a few things that we need to normalize. Feeling hungry, eating when hungry, enjoying sweet or salty tasting foods, eating as a social event, leaving food on your plate, and feeling emotions when we eat foods. So what is your relationship with food? Does that feel like a fairly loaded question? Does it feel like it comes with a lot of baggage? Does it make you feel uncomfortable to think about? Do you like eating? Or is it something that you dread doing? That's what the diet industry has done to us. It's absolutely destroyed our relationship to food, which is something that we have a right to as human beings. It's something we have a right to regardless of our body size. And it's something that is intimately connected to us as human beings, as family members, as friends, and as part of a culture. One of my favorite quotes is from Anthony Bourdain. "Food is everything we are. It is an extension of nationalist feeling, ethnic feeling, your personal history, your province, your region, your tribe, your grandma. It is inseparable from those from the get-go." Let's start with the 6 principles of having a healthy relationship with food. Number 1, eating when hungry. Number 2, knowing which foods you actually like. Number 3, having an expanded palate, being open to a wide range of textures, flavors, and new experiences. Number 4, feeling confident leaving food on your plate and throwing it away. Number 5, finding pleasure in food, but understanding that it also provides nourishment for your body. And number 6, eating when it is emotionally appropriate. Did any of those feel difficult to you? Was there anything that stuck out more than another, or perhaps triggered some childhood memory deep in the recesses of your mind? And that might be because your relationship with food starts in your childhood. Maybe you were forced to stay at the dinner table and finish everything on your plate. Maybe you were forced to eat things you didn't like. Maybe you were frequently eating fast food, microwave food, or packaged foods. Maybe there wasn't a normal, regular meal schedule in your household. Maybe you didn't eat at the dinner table as a family. All of these things can form your relationship with food. It all starts in your childhood. But the good news is that it doesn't have to stay that way. You are an evolving, growing human being, and there's always time for change. Exercise is a very important part of metabolic health. The more we move our bodies, the more calories we burn. The more muscle mass we maintain, the faster our metabolism, and the more resistant we are to regaining any weight after our bariatric operations. Different types of exercise impact our bodies differently, and we want you to consider where your body is, where your body feels best, and what types of movement you enjoy doing. We do recommend at least 2 to 3 days a week of some strength training. My personal favorite is lifting weights. When we lift weight, whether it's our body weight, dumbbells, or some other form of resistance training, we build skeletal muscle. Your ability to build muscle and fuel your body appropriately so that your muscle can recover and grow is a really important part of your metabolism. Cardiovascular exercises, such as walking, hiking, cycling, running, or using various forms of exercise equipment to get your heart rate up, are also very beneficial for your body. Doing cardiovascular exercise in conjunction with strength training is a really important part to having a well-rounded body. Healthy heart, healthy muscles. We also recommend working in some form of flexibility. Now, some forms of exercises are very dynamic, where you're using flexibility, strength training, and cardiovascular activity all in one. Just experiment and keep your body moving so that you have the best possible result. Now, I'd like to take a minute and explain just how your body stores energy for our muscles to use. All carbohydrate that we consume is then stored in our muscles and in our liver as a form of glycogen. It's estimated that in a healthy person, within 24 hours, all of that glycogen is then used and burned up. So every time we exercise, our body goes into a state of carb burn, pulling on these stored forms of carbohydrate to then fuel our activity. All of these concepts also relate to how we sleep and how we fast, which we'll be talking about in future videos. So when you're thinking about, do I need extra fuel for this type of activity, it really depends on how long you're exercising for and how rigorous that activity is. You can measure how rigorous your activity is based on how high your heart rate gets and whether or not your breathing increases. If you feel really out of breath and you actually need to stop and slow down to catch your breath, that is high intensity. If it's conversational, but you still feel like you're moving and stretching or walking, that's low intensity. And medium intensity is somewhere in between. The longer your workout, the more you're going to need extra calories, hopefully from healthy carbohydrate sources, to fuel it. After weight training, you're going to need protein within the guidelines that Bonnie will teach you to fuel your muscles and help rebuild and repair them. One of my favorite devices and new technologies that I use in my life is called a lumen. The Lumen is a metabolic flexibility tool. It's a breathing device. And what it does is it uses a technology called metabolic cart. This is an old nutritional technology that we used to use in the ICU to determine when somebody was sick, how many kind of calories did they need coming from fat, protein, or carbs so that we could help their recovery. Scientists have now put this technology into a device. You breathe into the device, and the device measures how much carbon dioxide you're breathing out. Depending on the carbon dioxide levels, it'll tell you on a level 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, 1 being fat burn, 5 being pure carb burn. I would like to demonstrate this for you right now. I open up the app, it's called Lumen, and I push this little breathing button. I'm supposed to uncross my legs. And let's say I want to know, how do I best fuel my body for a high intensity workout? Let's say I want to do 45 minutes of HIIT about 30 minutes from now. I push the button on the app, I turn my device on, I sit comfortable, relaxed, get ready to breathe. It connects via Bluetooth, and now I breathe. I breathe out. And then what this app does is it tells me what metabolic state am I currently in. Now, for frame of reference, this app also tells you if you should be in a low carb day or in a higher carb day. And again, this is all contingent upon your activity level and when you tested whether you were in carb burn or fat burn first thing in the morning when you wake up. So it's appropriate to test yourself upon waking and then before and after workouts. And then the app also gives you clues into, do you need more carbohydrates today or less carbohydrates today to reach your metabolic fitness goals? Currently, I'm in a level 2. And what that means is that I'm presently in a state of fat burn. Go me. But what that means is that I probably need to have about 15 grams of added carbohydrates before going into a high intensity workout so that I have enough energy to work out at peak performance. Now, I've been using this app for 4 years, and I love it. I love it so much. What's really fascinating is it also correlates to our stress response. It correlates to our sleep. And these are all facets of this Restart course that you're going to continue to learn about. Sleep and stress impact your metabolism significantly. Now, I'm also a mother, and I currently have a 2-year-old at home. That 2-year-olds will sometimes wake me up in the middle of the night, need me. Sometimes I'm on call as a surgeon, so I'll get woken up at night. When my sleep is disrupted, no matter how many carbohydrates I ate the night before, no matter what time I stop fasting, I will wake up at a level 5. And that's a stress response. So you also need to hold awareness into, is this my stress response or is this my normal metabolic function? So knowing that I'm a level 2 right now, and knowing I want to go into a higher intensity workout 30 minutes from now, I would probably eat maybe half a banana and maybe a little bit of peanut butter or almond butter right before my workout so that I would have the appropriate amount of energy to fuel my workout. So what is the circadian rhythm and how does it impact your weight? The circadian rhythm is the natural biological clock that exists within our bodies that helps us regulate our hormones of sleeping, waking. The circadian rhythm operates on about a 24 or 25-hour clock, which gives us some flexibility to waking and sleeping. The main component of the circadian rhythm that I want to get across is how cortisol, our stress hormone, also the hormone that represents our sympathetic state, naturally peaks in the body around 4 to 5 a.m. and again around 4 to 5 p.m. This is really important because as our hormones stimulate us to a state of activity, that's when we wake up and we rise and we get about our day. How to balance this rise in cortisol is met with good, meaningful, deep rest. It is recommended that most people get 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night.
And when we think about circadian rhythm, our natural rises in our cortisol hormones, when we're going to start eating and stop eating is also a really important part of this process. Have you heard of fasting and intermittent fasting? Breakfast means we are breaking our fast. And again, ideally, it should be about 12 hours after our last meal. If we skip breakfast, what can happen is it can actually overactivate our cortisol, putting us into a stress response. Another common behavior that I hear in a lot of overweight people is that they skip breakfast. Maybe they just start the day with coffee. Coffee is also a stimulant, pushing our nervous system into further sympathetic response, driving our cortisol up even higher. I personally have learned that if I skip breakfast, I get shaky, I get queasy, and my stress response is a lot harder to rebound from. And I actually don't maintain a healthy body weight very well. By starting my day around 7 to 8 a.m., even with a light breakfast, such as Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, scrambled eggs, maybe a little omelet, I feel so much better prepared and fueled to start my day. My cortisol response comes right down. And I have an easier time with my metabolic flexibility. Protein isn't just for bodybuilders. Protein is going to become the most important macronutrient that you focus your time and energy on as you go about your weight loss journey. And the reason is protein has so many amazing metabolic benefits. The first thing is it helps you regulate your blood sugar. Protein is not necessarily stimulating insulin to go into your bloodstream. It does a little bit, but not nearly to the effect that sugar or carbohydrates do. So by focusing your meals on protein, you're going to ensure that you feel fuller for longer without blood sugar crashes. Protein is also known to help stimulate the satiety hormone. Satiety is the sensation that we feel feeling satisfied and fed without necessarily feeling full or uncomfortable. So by ensuring that you have around 30 grams of protein at most meals, and even a protein snack maybe before dinner, you're going to ensure that you don't overeat and you feel full and satisfied throughout the day. Protein is so important because under a microscope, these protein molecules are actually broken down into amino acids. As we chew, we start the digestive process, but as we swallow and it mixes with the stomach acid, it gets further broken down into each individual molecule. I like the analogy of using a pearl necklace. Imagine as digestion happens, your enzymes in digestion break down that pearl necklace, so an amino acid is like each individual pearl. The more complete the protein, such as animal protein, or certain foods like tofu, quinoa, these are complete proteins, which means they have all of the essential amino acids needed to get a complete protein in. The reason complete proteins are really important is because you need a variety of amino acids to carry out a variety of functions in your body. We have gut bacteria in our body. We'll have more videos to come about the importance of these gut bacteria and the role that they play. But for now, I want you just to understand that there's an interaction between these bacteria and how they process the food that you eat. Each amino acid is then converted into a neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitters like GABA, which helps our parasympathetic nervous system feel relaxed and calm. Neurotransmitters like serotonin. Serotonin can help us feel happy and satisfied and fulfilled. And neurotransmitters such as melatonin. Melatonin is a very important sleep hormone. So by getting a complete complement of protein in our diet from a variety of sources, and here's where I want to advocate that Art of Bariatrics really does believe in the practice of abundance. The more abundant our lives are, the more abundant our dietary intake is, the more diversified our gut bacteria are, and the more healthy our body is overall. So next time you're thinking about protein, I want you to think about all the amazing benefits that it gives your body. You feel less hungry, you feel more satisfied, and it's supporting all of your hormones in your body and your neurotransmitters so that you really thrive and feel your best. Believe it or not, fats are actually an important part of a healthy diet. Fats not only fuel our brain, but they also fuel all of our cell membranes in our body. Fat is also one of those healthy macronutrients that doesn't spike our blood sugar. Getting enough healthy fat in your diet is really important for overall metabolic health. There may be days where you exercise more, in which case you're going to need more carbohydrates. Those are maybe days, in order to meet your overall calorie goal for total health and weight maintenance, that you decide to eat less fat. But there might be days where you aren't exercising as rigorously, in which case you're going to want to eat a little higher fat and less carbohydrates to again maintain optimal metabolic health. I mentioned earlier that healthy fats fuel the brain. The main fat that does this and also helps lower inflammation is called omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids are traditionally missing from the Western diet because most of our food sources are fed grains. Grains are really high in omega-6 fatty acids. And what can happen in the body is we get an imbalance of omega-3 to omega-6. Omega-6s end up driving inflammation, whereas omega-3s end up lowering inflammation. So when you think about joint health, again, how you want your brain to function, brain fog, fatigue, and just feeling like you get good, restful sleep, having a diet that's rich in omega-3 fatty acids can absolutely help. What's nice is these omega-3 fatty acids comes from foods that either grow in the ground or stand on the ground. So omega-3 fatty acids are found in cold water fish, such as salmon, mackerel, sardines, cod. You can even take an omega-3 fatty acid supplement like cod liver oil or little capsules. Getting more omega-3 fatty acids in your diet is a really important part of your overall health. So we do recommend supplementation if you find it challenging to get this from your diet. Plant-based sources include chia seeds and flax seeds. We recommend ground flaxseed as it's high in fiber and also a tasty addition to your Greek yogurt or smoothies. My favorite subject, the human gut microbiome. The human gut microbiome is now believed to be the essence to people's health and longevity all across time, all across cultures, all over the planet. When we study cultures who still live in a hunter-gatherer kind of way, where there's no processed foods in their diet whatsoever, it's calculated that they're consuming up to 100 grams of fiber a day in unprocessed, unagriculturally grown food sources. Now, that's not really realistic for us here in Western cultures. But what is realistic is understanding this mutualistic benefit between these microorganisms that live in our gut, how they process the food that we give them, and how that impacts our health. Everything we've talked about so far is microbiome friendly. There's nothing that we're going to suggest in this course that is going to be detrimental to the gut microbiome. But I wanted to expand on this topic to again hopefully inspire you so you can create a grateful relationship between your environment and yourself. So the human intestine, believe it or not, the small intestine, if you were to cut it open and stretch it out, it's actually 2 full tennis courts in surface area. What that means is that every single molecule that we chew and digest and absorb and assimilate into building block proteins in our body comes from this digestive process. When we talk about a healthy gut microbiome, keeping in mind that it's kind of unrealistic for us to just live off the land and have all these fruits and vegetables available to our disposal, like those cultures and those tribes that live in the Amazon rainforest. What we have learned from them is that they have little to no metabolic disease, they're not overweight, and that they don't have any autoimmune disease either. In Western countries, what we have is an agricultural system that undermines the natural diversity of the world. And again, I'm not here to say that it's all right or all wrong, but what we do understand is that this environmental relationship between human and earth is actually really important. So when it comes to our food choices, how we live our lives, the types of foods that we put in our body, it is the best thing you can do for yourself when you buy directly from a small farmer. Small farmers are often not using major agricultural equipment or major agricultural means such as pesticides, which then deplete our soil. These microorganisms that are found in probiotic foods actually come from soil naturally in our environment. So the more you can source foods directly from good earth, the healthier you're going to be. So not only is there a lot of surface area in the gut, but there's also a variety of microorganisms that inhabit our bodies. What's really fascinating is each individual has a unique signature of microorganisms that inhabit their body as unique as our fingerprint. Now, I'm originally from Oregon, And in Oregon, we have wonderful researchers at the University of Oregon that have actually studied this unique effect of each individual microbiome. And what they found is we actually live in an aura cloud of our own microorganisms. And as we leave a room, evidence of this microbial cloud still exists for up to 5 minutes after our departure. To take it a step further, I'm going to then explain how these different types of organisms interact with your food and your personal body for a sign of health. According to Art of Bariatrics, our whole theme here, and according to microbial dietary principles, what we want to support is diversity and abundance. In order to have numerous different types of bacteria inhabiting our body for good, we need to eat a variety of food in our diet. One of the big pitfalls that I see in people who have undergone bariatric surgery is that they often eat the same foods every single day. And because we emphasize protein so early on in the program, so many people deny themselves the ability to eat a variety of plant-based foods. So while protein is really important for all the mechanisms that we previously explained, I'll go into more detail in the next video about how plants are really the magical sauce here when it comes to creating a diverse amount of microorganisms that inhabit your body. These microorganisms take the information, all nutrition is DNA or RNA, and interacts with our DNA. So one of the really unique findings of how these gut bacteria interact with our health is that they have their own set of genes, which then interact with our genome. So there is this mutualistic relationship between diet, environment, and these microorganisms. Earlier we had talked about nervous system health and what it means to have a good regulated stress response. What's also really fascinating is that sneaky little hormone called cortisol, if it gets amplified in our body under situations of stress, oftentimes we also have neurotransmitters such as adrenaline or norepinephrine that also get triggered from our adrenal glands. The bacteria can sense this. And when they sense this, they actually release genetic changes, alerting, it's like an alarm, alerting the entire population of bacteria that their host is going down. So what I like to say is you really want to develop this harmonious relationship between your body, your environment, and your diet so that you can really create a 5-star hotel. You want to be a sexy destination for these healthy microorganisms so that they can survive and thrive inside you. When we have a healthy gut microbiome, we have a healthy gut lining. When we have a healthy gut lining, we have the opportunity to make all of our neurotransmitters, the serotonin, the GABA, and our whole system works synergistically. The human gut microbiome and its health is now associated with every single metabolic disease that we know exists, including type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, sleep apnea, joint pain, even cancer. So as this video is being made, just know that we're kind of on this precipice of understanding how these microorganisms interact with our diet, with our environment. And pretty soon we're going to be seeing even more technological advances, more therapeutic advances to help us nurture and take care of our gut microbiome. In our product line that we recommend for supplements, you'll see a lot of things that are here to support your gut microbiome, whether it's probiotics, fermented foods, or certain herbal supplements that help protect that gut lining. I mentioned stress. This was a study found in the 90s, and it was studied in dogs, but that whole vagus nerve concept, whenever we experience stress hormones, the stress hormones actually trigger an enzyme event that breaks apart the tight junctions at your gut level. And so if your gut level is broken open, then what can happen is undigested food particles can leak across, interacting with your nervous system, your endocrine system, and increasing inflammation in the body. And this is also believed to be the precursor to certain autoimmune diseases. So again, the takeaway message is the microbiome is a really important part of you and is unique to you. In the next videos, we'll be learning about how nutrition can impact the gut microbiome and what control we have over creating the body we want. So plants are absolutely magical when it comes to nourishing your gut microbiome. The way I like to think about it is a variety of colors. You may have heard, eat the rainbow. What that means is eating a lot of different foods from all of the different colors of the rainbow. And the way I think about it is every single color has a different benefit, a different complement, different antioxidants. When I first studied nutrition, antioxidants mind blew me. Antioxidants have the power to repair our DNA and actually ensure that every next cell in our body, which is made by our body, is healthier than the last. So eating a variety of antioxidants not only encourages our DNA to be repaired and made healthier its next go around, but it also encourages the gut microbiome to do the same. Each bacteria that inhabits our body has a life cycle of about 20 minutes. Imagine your life cycle. Compress that down in time. So with this shorter lifespan, it's really important that we keep maintaining a healthy environment loaded in antioxidants so that we have healthy cell division. I like to remind people that a liver cell only lives about 90 days, a red blood cell only about 120 days, and various cell types all throughout the body have various shorter or longer lifespans. But as a cell in the body starts to get old and starts to die, it will then make a copy of itself. So this notion of reproduction and cellular transference is really important to think about how we want a healthy body long term. Healthy aging, healthy metabolism, all of this comes down to antioxidants and the microbiome and our stress response. Healthy sleep, healthy co-regulation, it's all part of the art of bariatrics. Fiber may not necessarily be a macronutrient, but what it is it's part of your overall carbohydrate intake. Fiber is the part of carbohydrates that makes them slower to digest and raises the blood sugar slower over time. There's different types of fiber. There's insoluble and soluble. For your sake, all you really need to know is that fiber is really important. We want the fiber content in your diet to inform your carbohydrate choices. Fiber is a very special nutrient and a very special part of complex carbohydrates. Different types of fiber, just like we spoke about with different types of plants, having different colors. So the antioxidants and the fiber work together to feed different types of microorganisms that inhabit your gut. Research has shown that health is measured by the different types of organisms you have and how many of them you have. So imagine each different type of food feeding a different type or subspecies of bacteria. The more variety you have in your diet, the healthier you are. Another finding that came from the Human Gut Microbiome Project found that the healthiest individuals in Western countries ate up to 30 different plants a week. It is our challenge to you, and what is included in our meal plans is 30 different plants a week. Plants can look like different things. It might be herbs, it might be spices, it might be fruits, vegetables, whole grains. Yes, whole grains are a part of a healthy diet. When we talk about whole grains, we really want to emphasize the ones that you prepare at home with minimal processing. The ones that come in dry bulk bags that you maybe put in your pressure cooker or boil on your stovetop. Kamut berries are the type of whole grain. These are nice, really crunchy little grains that you can add to your salads. Quinoa is another one. And remember, quinoa is a complete protein. Not all grains have complete proteins in them, but as you start layering in all these complexities of what's important and embody mindfulness and self-awareness, you're going to be more inspired to take action to get a more diverse aspect of fiber in your diet. Did you know that willpower and sleep are connected? What happens when we don't get good sleep is we actually have hormones in the body, cortisol. That darn cortisol gets overactivated. When cortisol is activated, what happens is our bodies then are in that carb burning state. And so we tend to seek pleasure-seeking behaviors, like watching TV or not exercising or eating sugar and carbohydrates because those make us feel good. So the next time you feel like you're running out of willpower, I want you to do a couple of different things. Number one, always come down to resetting and recalibrating Are you getting enough deep sleep? There's many things in our environment that disrupt our ability to get good sleep. Blue light is one of them. So maybe you're on your phone when you're lying in bed. Maybe you're scrolling through Instagram. Maybe you're watching TV. Sleep hygiene doctors actually recommend that you take the TV out of the bedroom altogether. Some people go so far to changing the light bulbs at their bedside table. What I do as a personal practice is I like to read before bed. I don't lay on my phone. I don't have any artificial light like televisions around. And I just read old-fashioned text on paper. The more boring the book, the better, so I can fall asleep more quickly. But honestly, I really love sci-fi. And sometimes those adventures are too exciting. It's hard to go to sleep. So you have to take it all into context. As a parent, sometimes it's also hard to cater your bedtime routine just to you. So think about this in the context of your whole house and your whole family. Using a nice bedtime routine that gets the whole family involved ensures that the whole house can sleep more restfully. And when you wake up in the morning, you have so much more energy and attention to focus on what really matters. Your goals, living in alignment with what choices you need to make to live your best life. I also like to reframe willpower. Willpower is sometimes perceived as this internal strength that makes us better or makes us make better decisions. But sometimes, because of the societal context around willpower, we also think that we can lose it and it can be disempowering. So instead, I like to use words like commitment. When you stay committed and when you stay disciplined, then you have the best possible result. An analogy to this is like getting in a car and putting on your seatbelt. At one point in your life, you might have been a rebel. I don't want to wear my seatbelt, but there's consequences on the other side. And slowly, it becomes a habit. And there's also consequences, right? If you get pulled over, that's a ticket. Too many tickets, now you don't have a license. It's really important that you take priority over what's important, create discipline over something as simple as sleep. In this next module, we'll go over tips and tricks to create a healthy bedtime routine so that you can feel more empowered, more disciplined, and more committed to your goals. Creating a nourishing bedtime routine can look different for everyone. Like I said, I personally am a parent to 2 young children, which means it can feel chaotic at times. But you need to just relax. Relax is really the key to getting good, deep, restful sleep. What I like to do is I like to prepare my whole family for what's going to come. My children really benefit from taking a bath. I don't have the luxury of taking a bath all to myself right before bedtime, but when I do get that luxury, man, it helps me sleep. So maybe I suggest you try taking a bath right before bed if that's possible for you. Some of the ways we can also start dialing in our sleep hormones and making ourselves accepting of sleep is by changing the lighting. I mentioned blue lighting before. Television, screens, phones, all of these blue lights, these artificial lights, really mimic natural sunlight. And for me, currently I'm in the northern hemisphere, far away from the equator. What I experience is a big difference between my energy levels in the winter and my energy levels in the summertime. Exposure to natural sunlight is very energizing, and sometimes that feels good. In the summer, I like being at barbecues. I don't care if I stay up a little bit later because the sun is what energizes me even through the day. But in the winter time, I naturally take kind of a bear mode on. The sun goes down at 5 p.m. sometimes. And sometimes in the winter, it's very easy for me to go to sleep by 8:30, depending on how the rest of my family is settling down. It is recommended from a metabolic perspective that you go to bed and wake up at the same time every day. Now think about the kid in you, the one that wants to stay up late watching TV and sleep in the morning. It's okay to do that every once in a while. We're all human, we've all been there, and it's fun to play and take priority over joy and living life fully too. But if you're recognizing your own metabolism and your own habits in and around maybe not getting regular sleep every day, then I highly suggest you really reflect on how you can develop a better routine. So we talked about taking baths, we talked about changing light. In the next few videos, we'll also talk about how eating and fasting play into this deep, restful sleep. But what's also helpful is instead of drinking alcohol or maybe snacking, maybe you drink a nice warm cup of tea. There are certain teas out there like lavender and chamomile, even Tulsi, but they really help turn on relaxation hormones and set the mood for deep, restful sleep. Other things you can do, as a woman, I love washing my face before I go to bed. As a man, you might really enjoy kicking your feet up and reading the news for all I care. As long as it brings you relaxation and harmony and the sense of peace and the sense of restfulness, it's okay to add into your nighttime routine. The other thing I find a lot of joy in doing is wearing an eye mask when I sleep. Now, sometimes my husband likes to make fun of me because I'm very dependent on my eye mask, but I'm very sensitive to any little aspect of light, whether it's a street lamp, maybe it's the light that's left on in the kitchen that creaks through the door. When I have total darkness, I sleep my best. Blackout curtains is another thing you can add into your bedroom. With blackout curtains, you can actually go to bed earlier, even if the sun is still out. And again, being adaptable so that you have the right routine that works for you and that feels nourishing to you is really all that's important. Another sleep disruptor that is really important for us to address in this course, as we're talking about overall obesogenic means things that create or lead to obesity behaviors. And right before sleep, a lot of people that I meet have nighttime eating habits. And there's many reasons people engage in nighttime eating. Sometimes we're watching TV. Remember in the last video, I mentioned that maybe we should turn the TV off at a certain time, that we were not stimulated by the blue light. But have you ever noticed that while watching a commercial, the only ads on at nighttime TV are usually for fast food? So as you're watching these decadent commercials and we're being exposed to eat me, eat me, eat me propaganda, it naturally makes us more hungry. Another reason people often nighttime eat is because of emotional, unresolved needs that happen in the course of the day. When we're under stress, maybe we don't prioritize our own needs throughout the day. If we're skipping meals, if we work night shift, oftentimes our sleep-wake schedule is very dysregulated. But loneliness, fear, stress, I can't, I don't have, all of these things typically inspire us to reach for immediate gratification. At nighttime, it's often ice cream, popcorn, chips. It's all the really overly convenient, highly addictive foods that people reach for. So if this is a habit that you have experienced in the past, all I'm asking you to do is to hold awareness to this habit. Because through your own self-awareness and your own experience, sometimes if we can just label the emotion and start strategizing how we're going to get better sleep, simply by getting better sleep sets you up for making better choices the next day. Another strategy, which is not always popular, is that you can simply not buy those foods and put them in the home. This takes an extra element of willpower, commitment, and discipline. But by not having these snacks around, instead of reaching for the chips or the candy or the ice cream, you can simply reach for that apple instead. So I'm not telling you to necessarily feel like you have to abandon all of your habits and all of the things that you feel are right for you in that moment, but you can use this lens of observation and empower yourself to make better choices and set yourself up for success. In the same vein of emotional eating and loneliness comes an authentic need for connection. When we feel connected to our loved ones, when we engage our loved ones around this time of the evening right before bed, then we typically feel more satisfied and less needy for external comfort. There's a psychologist who calls this a symbolic substitute. So I don't know who you live with. Maybe it's children, maybe it's a spouse, maybe you live alone. If you do experience emotional eating tied to lack of connection, maybe it's time for a pet. Another important part of how we sleep and our metabolism is how we fast at night. I've already mentioned this before in previous videos, but I want to expand on it a little bit more. When we get good sleep and we have a normal natural cortisol response, and our willpower or discipline and commitment is stronger in the morning, this is the time to make sure you do eat exactly what you need to earlier in the day. One of these strategies is even maybe with breakfast and before exercise. That is when you eat the majority of the day's carbohydrates. It's important that your body does get carbohydrates because carbohydrates is where we get fiber and those antioxidants. Remember, all of the plants, all of the vegetables, all of the squashes, all of the whole grains, those are the healthy carbohydrate choices we want you to get. When you move into your evening time, really think about how you can prioritize having dinner at a consistent time. Some cultures even call this supper because supper was traditionally a lighter meal, where maybe they would do soup instead of a big meal with lots of potatoes, lots of bread, pasta. We really want to be careful to minimize the amount of carbohydrates before bed. It's really important that you make sure that you're mindful of this aspect of your metabolism, how your body processes food, so that you can get the deep sleep that you need.
An important aspect of our eating ritual is mindfulness. This is an art that has been lost throughout the hustle and bustle of modern life. The term mindful eating is often thrown around, but with little instruction. Let's talk about the steps to take to increase your mindfulness at your meals. Let's start by breaking down what mindful eating is. At its core, it is being present. Ask yourself the question when you're at your mealtime: is everything there except for you? Make sure that you plate and arrange your food in a way that is visually appealing. This is an entire experience. Try taking a smaller portion. Sometimes we simply eat what's in front of us because it's in front of us. Slow down your eating time. This isn't a race. Take your time. Set your fork or your spoon down between every bite. Enjoy talking with your friends and family. Look at your meal. Stay present. And finally, chew your food thoroughly. Make sure you are actually tasting your food. Enjoy every bite of it. A useful tool for eating mindfully is called the Hunger Fullness Scale. This is a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being extremely starving and 10 being extremely stuffed. Ideally, you want to start eating around a 3 or a 4 and end eating around a 7. If we were to think about that scale, it might go starving, hungry, stomach starting to growl, getting a little hungry, neutral, which is a 5, satisfied, partially full, a little full, extremely full, and uncomfortably full. Let's drop into mindful eating. Before you start eating, come back into your body. Feel the sensations in your body. Feel your physical body. This can feel uncomfortable for some people. Feeling ourselves, being within our physical body, can feel kind of uncomfortable if you've grown up in a larger body or you are living in a larger body, because it can be associated with shame. However, it's important to acknowledge every part of yourself, because every part of yourself deserves to be present in that meal, and you deserve to have nourishment no matter what your body size is. If you are having trouble coming back into your body, I recommend trying a deep breathing exercise before you start eating. Place one hand on your chest and one hand on your stomach. we'll practice what's called 4-7 breathing. We're going to breathe into the count of 4 through your nose. Hold your breath for a pause, and then blow out through your mouth to the count of 7, like you are blowing out through a straw. In this video, we will be practicing mindful eating. After all, what good is it to know what mindful eating is if you don't know how to put it into practice on a daily basis? Start by finding a small piece of food, such as 1 raisin, 1 nut, or a small cookie. Pause the video so that you can choose your food. Settle in a comfortable location, preferably seated at a dining room table with both feet on the floor. Remember, it does not matter what piece of food you chose. Eating with mindfulness is not about deprivation or rules. Begin by exploring this little piece of food, using as many of your senses as possible. First, look at the food. Notice its texture. Notice its color. Now, close your eyes and explore this food with your sense of touch. What does this food feel like? Is it hard or soft? Grainy or sticky? Moist or dry? Notice that you're not being asked to think, but just to notice different aspects of your experience using one sense at a time. This is what it means to eat mindfully. Before you eat, explore this food with your sense of smell. What do you notice? Now begin eating. No matter how small the bite of food you have, take at least 2 bites to finish it. Take your first bite. Please chew very slowly, noticing the actual sensory experience of chewing and tasting. Remember, you don't need to think about your food to experience it. You might want to close your eyes for a moment to focus on the sensations of chewing and tasting before continuing. Notice the texture of the food, the way it feels in your mouth. Notice if the intensity of its flavor changes moment to moment. Take about 20 more seconds to very slowly finish this first bite, being aware of the simple sensations of chewing and tasting. It isn't always necessary to eat slowly in order to eat with mindfulness, but it's helpful at first to slow down in order to be as mindful as you can. Now please take your second and last bite. As before, chew very slowly while paying close attention to the actual sensory experience of eating, the sensations and movements of chewing, the flavor of the food as it changes, and the sensations of swallowing. Just pay attention, moment by moment. Using a mindfulness eating exercise on a regular basis is only one part of a mindfulness approach to your diet. The liberating power of mindfulness takes deeper effect when you begin to pay mindful attention to your thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations, all of which lead us to eat. Mindfulness is the foundation that many people have been missing for overcoming food cravings, addictive eating, binge eating, emotional eating, and stress eating. I hope you've enjoyed your mindful eating experience and that you will put it into practice the next time you eat. In this video, we will be talking about a crucial aspect of your health and weight loss, and that is having conversations with your friends and family. These can be tough conversations. They might be with your partner, your children, your parents, your friends, or your coworkers. They feel tough, but they are necessary. Habits are often reinforced because somebody else participates in the habit with us. Oftentimes, we're met with resistance from our friends and family members when we tell them about our health goals. But it's important to understand, why are they resistant? Well, they might be worried that they have to eat the same way as you do. They could be feeling anxious about change. There's a possibility they might feel jealous or concerned that if you change, you might not love them anymore. And finally, they could be struggling with their own health and body issues, so that when you become healthier, it might bring up insecurities for them or make them feel inadequate. For example, you and your partner eat snack foods every night after dinner while watching TV. To change this habit, you can change one of the variables in the habit. The first thing you can try is you could read a book instead of watching TV, which will disrupt the habitual experience of snacks altogether while watching television. The other thing you can do is you may decide to watch television together, but instead of snacks, you make herbal tea. And finally, you make a healthier choice for a snack, which helps you and helps you meet your goals. Our goal when having these conversations with our friends and family is to diffuse the defensiveness. We all get defensive when we feel blamed. So try to avoid saying things like, "You do this," "You're always," "I hate it when you," and instead replace it with phrases like, "I feel like," "It's really difficult for me when XYZ happens," "Your support is really important to me. Could you help me by," "When XYZ happens, I really struggle to stay on track. It would mean a lot to me if you could help me by doing," and provide an example for them. During these conversations, open up the communication. Ask them what they think or feel about the changes you're making. Find out if they want to be included in your lifestyle changes, but make sure you don't pressure them to join you. And lastly, it's okay to have boundaries. You've been kind, you've been respectful in your conversation tactics, but your support people, what if they're still being difficult? Well, you need to remember that your health matters. It's okay to set boundaries. You may need to do your own thing if support people aren't able to emotionally process you bettering yourself. And lastly, be firm, clear, and kind when stating your boundaries. I hope that some of these tactics will help you to have better and more open conversation with your loved ones as you make your health changes. In this video, we will be doing a guided meditation. Please make sure that you have a quiet, comfortable place to be, preferably lying down with no distractions. Start by finding a comfortable place to sit or lie down and gently close your eyes. Imagine a peaceful stream winding through a lush forest or meadow with leaves floating on the surface of the water. What colors do you see? What sounds do you hear? Notice the leaves floating on the surface of the water. As thoughts come into your mind, visualize placing each thought on a leaf and letting it float down the stream. Every thought, happy, painful, neutral, let them all float away. Allow the stream to flow at its natural pace. Acknowledge all thoughts, boredom, whatever your mind has wandered to. Place them all on leaves and watch them float away. Gently setting your thoughts on the leaves, allowing them to float down the stream. If you find your mind wandering, simply come back to this place. Place that thought on a leaf and let it go away. Bring your attention back to your breath and feel your body breathe in and out. Gently open your eyes and bring yourself back to your surrounding. I hope you enjoyed this guided meditation and your mind feels clearer and you feel ready to go about your day or go to bed.
Mental flexibility is a very important part of this lifelong journey towards total metabolic health. The invitation is that you remain curious. Curious about why you make certain choices. Curious about why you have certain negative self-limiting beliefs. Remember when we talked about sabotage and we talked about different emotions that we often ignore, such as anger, fear of change, loneliness? When we deny ourselves the full breadth of our experience, to experience the light and the shadow, we often just try to make everything good. We try to just make it good in the moment. Just like that nighttime eating, reaching for something sweet and salty. I also want you to recognize that you don't need to deny yourself these things. By not denying yourself the pleasures in life, by acknowledging your emotions and separating the emotion from the reason why you're reaching for those things, that's where the real magic happens. There's a concept out there called masculine and feminine. When we have good balance, our feminine likes to be free flow, joyful, pleasure-seeking, caregiving. And so I invite you to think about how you can apply that feminine principle to yourself. We also have a masculine aspect. The masculine aspect likes control, rigidity, doing things, and being disciplined and committed. This whole process about being your best self and enjoying your body for what it is really needs to bring in the balance of being and of doing. So here's a little exercise for you. Imagine yourself as the complete version that you want to be. Imagine yourself having lost all of the weight that you need to lose without necessarily putting a number to it. How do you feel? What is your body capable of? But when we can embody this version of ourselves that we want to become, and we do this without judgment or expectations, that's the feminine really coming into play. So in this exercise, you can imagine yourself 5 years from now. Who are you? How do you feel? What is your being like? And then the pathway between now and then is just all about this balance between discipline, commitment, flow, leisure, weaving all that in together. The next thing I want to invite you to do is to release your attachment to the things that you hold near and dear. When we have strict attachment to not giving up or to not relaxing or to not trying something new, then we can continue to self-sabotage ourselves, continue to feel victimized, and continue to really be disconnected from our body and what's possible. Art of Bariatrics isn't really about giving you a meal plan that you have to strictly follow, giving you an exercise routine that you have to strictly follow, with this unrealistic expectation on the other end of what's possible. We all have different backgrounds. We were all born into this earth with different needs, different circumstances, different genetics, different nationalities, different backgrounds from different countries. Becoming a whole version of yourself is only something you can do. We are here to guide you. We are here to support you. We are here to springboard off of you and mirror back for you what we see. But this is an inside job. The invitation is to stay curious to the work and release attachment to anything that doesn't serve you. To piggyback onto our last video, this idea of masculine and feminine, bringing the two into balance, is really the point I'm trying to get across today when I speak about nourishing the whole self. Life is going to continue to happen. It's going to throw you curveballs. You're going to grieve. You're going to celebrate. You're going to maybe lose a job, maybe move. Life is constantly bringing about stress. But what is most important is how do we adapt to that stress? So just because we find a new exercise routine that we love doesn't mean we have to hold attachment to being there every day if last night we didn't get very good sleep. Maybe now we need to shift into prioritizing sleep. By maintaining this level of mental flexibility, it also allows you to maintain a level of pragmatic, practical flexibility in your life. Knowing that life is going to continue to happen to you, day by day, week by week, the environment is constantly changing. As we can develop this relationship to our internal compass of what our body needs so that we get good sleep, stay committed and disciplined to ourselves, and make healthy choices long-term, the long-term gain, the version of yourself you want to be 5 years from now, is far more important than the immediate needs or the rules that you put upon yourself. Oftentimes, when people lose weight, they want to restrict things from their lives. They want to cut certain foods out. And we get into this mindset of if we aren't suffering through it, then it's not good enough. I am here to tell you, you are good enough, and you do deserve this, and you do deserve balance. And weight loss actually takes time. When you had metabolic surgery, what an amazing event to witness it all falling off so quickly. But now if you're part of this restart course, you're trying to reset all of that. I'll tell you a story. The story is about a man who lost touch with his ability to exercise because he felt very consumed by the caretaking role of his children. He then started going to the gym merely to sit in the hot tub so he could relax. After spending several weeks sitting in the hot tub just so he can relax, as he was taking a break away from his child who was now in childcare, he developed this capacity to see that he had time for himself, doing things that he wanted to do. Now that he was relaxing, he now had the motivation, the discipline, the inspiration to actually start exercising on days when he felt like he had energy to start exercising. So the moral of this story, this antidote, is sometimes it's rest, sometimes it's play, sometimes it's work, sometimes it's relaxation. In order to keep your organism, your body working at optimal function, it really takes this balance between not activating our stress hormones too much, taking care of ourselves, and that masculine principle of movement and action and taking care of our bodies. So weave it all together. The power is yours. Checking in with our mood can be a really important part of how we process the next choice we're going to make. When we have moods that pull us out of the present moment, or those shadow moods like anger, frustration, jealousy, all of these are energies that really interact with our ability to make informed choices for ourselves. An exercise that you can do that I find incredibly helpful is in a journal, you can write down thinking, feeling, doing. And so you can reflect at the end of the day, maybe this is something you want to do in bed before you go to sleep, but you can write down things that you did throughout the day and how you felt as you did them and the thoughts that you had as you were doing them. What I find really fascinating about layering in thinking, feeling, and doing is that more often than not, people have a really hard time layering in feeling. More often than not, in Western culture, we've been conditioned to hide our feelings. As we grow into adulthood, it's no longer okay to just cry, bawl, or express ourselves because we're always in social dynamics with other people. It might take some time, but the invitation is get vulnerable with yourself. As soon as we can label emotions in real time as we're going through our day, it becomes so much easier to process that, digest it, and move on. That way we're not putting it in our shadow aspect. We're not in denial. We're not leaving those aspects of ourselves behind. We can just say, I'm cranky. I want a cookie, and do it. Instead of not labeling the emotion and eating the whole box. The invitation is thinking, feeling, doing. Maybe you're at this point where all you recognize is the doing aspect. I ate a whole box of cookies. Okay. Some psychologists would call that a binge eating episode. Now it's up to you to identify why you binge eat. What was I thinking? What was I doing? What was I feeling? And then the next time there's this urge to not stop, to not feel satisfied, to not feel complete, maybe now you can start recognizing the thoughts and the feelings before it. By recognizing the thoughts and the feelings and saying them out loud or writing them down or just making sure that you acknowledge what those things are, you are so much better prepared to then know how your thoughts and your feelings drive your behavior. And when we talk about obesogenic behavior, that's really what we're trying to identify. What thoughts, beliefs, feelings do we hold in that moment that then drive those behaviors that then lead to us making unhealthy choices over and over and over. In Sanskrit, the word is called samskara. Samskara is the lesson that keeps happening over and over and over until we get it right. So thank you so much for trusting Art of Bariatrics to be your guide to help you uncover what these repeating episodes are in your life so that you can let go of the samskara of being overweight.
In this video, we will be learning alternate nostril breathing. This is a powerful tool for regulating your nervous system or giving you relief anytime you feel stressed. Taking your thumb, please cover one of your nostrils. We will be breathing in the other side to the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Close both nostrils now with any finger. Hold. Release the thumb. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. Now the other side. Breathing in. 2, 3, 4. Hold. In. 2, 3, 4. Hold. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. I hope you've enjoyed this exercise and that you feel calmer and ready to start your day.